President Gotabaya Rajapaksa stresses the Indian Ocean should be an open and independent zone for all countries. Prime Minister attends protest to identify the plight of the people. Mahasangha representing the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect raises red flag over passing the 20th amendment without making the proposed amendments during committee stages. Sri Lanka Freedom Party disgruntled over recent events, General Secretary Dayasiri reveals. Complaint lodged at the CID against the former president. Members of the Haldumulla Pradeshya Sabha climb onto a roof against the chairman of the Pradeshya Sabha.
A very good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. Now moving on to your lead story this evening. President Gotabaya Rajapaksa claims the Indian Ocean should be an open and independent zone for all countries. Now the President expressed these remarks during an event where credentials were presented to 4 newly appointed ambassadors.
Newly appointed ambassadors to the Korean Republic, Germany, Vatican and Switzerland were awarded credentials this morning during an event held with the participation of the President. All 4 newly appointed ambassadors commended the President for successfully controlling the spread of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka. According to the President's media division, the President had recalled that it was Sri Lanka that proposed the Indian Ocean be declared as a zone of peace 5 decades ago. The President, who had highlighted that the country's topmost priority is mutually beneficial development cooperation, had also stressed that Sri Lanka, which is located in a place of strategic importance, has chosen neutrality as its foreign policy. The President's media division also quotes the President saying, Sri Lanka's strategic geographical location has made the country attractive to many parties.
Prime Minister Mahindra Pakistan visited an area where a protest was ongoing and inquired regarding the issues while he was travelling to the Rawatawata area in Moodys. The protest was held by students and parents of a school requesting the authorities to reinstate the former principal of the school. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mahindra Pakistan also participated in the annual prize giving of the Colombo Hindu College.
There is a story which goes, when one school opens, many prisons close down. It is the responsibility of the school to discipline its children while educating them. I believe children should be encouraged to engage in sports as well. Sports will teach them discipline and also enable them to learn to accept defeat.
සමාජයක් ඇති කරන්න අපිට පුළුවන් කම තියෙනවායි කියලායි මම විශ්වාස කරනවා. என் நண்பர் மாணவர்களே, நீங்கள் தான் எமது நாட்டின் எதிர்கால தலைவர்கள். உங்கள் அனைவரையும் இன்று நான் சந்திப்பதில் மகிழ்ச்சி அடைகிறேன்.
Now, the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect warned that a problematic situation may arise if the amendments presented by the committee appointed to study the 20th amendment are not taken into account. Now, these views were expressed when a group of dignitaries, including former Speaker Karu Jayasuriya, met with the Mahanayaka of the Askiri chapter today.
Our basic objective is to establish a new constitution. The backdrop to create a new constitution has now been made. The necessary facts taken from the present constitution, information retrieved from the public in recent times, and facts pointed out in recent discussions have to be combined for this purpose. All the sources needed for this purpose have now been collected. Therefore, we are of the stance that the second constitution has to be presented to be approved soon. The 19th Amendment has to be removed and the positive elements of the amendment need to be taken forward while reviewing the beneficial and harmful effects of both amendments to the people and for the governance of the country. The constitution will not just affect us but also affect those who are yet to take over the country. Therefore, this needs to be taken into consideration when creating an amendment to the constitution. We hope the reforms to the amendment submitted through the committee appointed to study it will be taken into account when the amendment is passed through the committee stages. If that does not happen, we see that as a problematic situation. Karu Jayasuriya visited the Mahanayaka Thera of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect as the chairman of the National Movement for Social Justice. The group also visited the Mahanayaka Thera of the Malwatu chapter and expressed their stance regarding the 20th Amendment. The hearing of the petitions filed against the 20th Amendment to the Constitution continued for the second day today in the Supreme Court. Attorney-at-Law Krishmal Varnasuriya pointed out that the democratic right enjoyed by the people thus far have been removed by the 20th Amendment. He added that the 20th Amendment has proposed for Sri Lanka to change from a republic to a nation-state and thus it should not be even approved through a referendum. He argued that if such changes are to be made, it must be put before the people and after given adequate time to analyze the content, people should be asked to vote at a referendum. He was appearing for 4 candidates who contested at the general election from the United National Party in the Colombo district, including Dr. Ajanta Pereira. Attorney-at-Law Shiral Laktilaka, Attorney-at-Law Viran Korea, Attorney-at-Law Pulasti Heva Manna and Attorney-at-Law Gihan Kulatung submitted that many of the clauses in the 20th Amendment have infringed the fundamental rights of the general public. They requested the court to conclude that these need to be put forward before the general public at a referendum. Attorney-at-Law Lakshman Jayakumar, appearing on behalf of the Sri Lanka Press Institute, submitted that the clause requiring private media institutions to comply with guidelines issued by the Elections Commission would infringe on the people's sovereignty and fundamental rights. He argued that state media is a public resource and that the clauses in the 20th Amendment, in essence, brings private media institutions under the government. President's Counsel Nisam Karyappa appeared for the Muslim Congress. He pointed out that the general public did not vote in the President and the Parliament to act in a dictatorial or arbitrary fashion. He stressed that the Supreme Court has been vested with an enormous responsibility. President's Counsel Leonard Pereira, appearing for the Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Ruwan Wijewardena, said that this is an attempt to deprive the people of the right to information introduced through the 19th Amendment. He said that the 20th Amendment proposes for the powers of the Prime Minister and the Parliament to be vested with the President. He added that giving the President the power to arbitrarily appoint the Chief Justice, Justices of the Supreme Court, Chairman and the Justices of the Court of Appeal and the Attorney General will infringe the independence of the judiciary. He added that the attempt of the government to pass this amendment in a rush has created suspicion among the general public. Counsel representing the petitioners also pointed out that the documents presented by the Attorney General containing committee stage amendments to the bill cannot be considered as it is outside due process.
Yesterday,
the government put forward some amendments to be presented during the second reading. Our position was that the 20th Amendment that was gazetted was challenged without considering any of those amendments. The Attorney General has no power over that matter. It is a legislative function. We cannot rely on the facts presented by the Attorney General regarding the intentions of the legislator. Every petitioner notified the Supreme Court when they challenged the proposed amendment. Furthermore, we notified the Supreme Court that we are challenging only the proposed provisions which were presented through the Gazette. No other recommendations will be considered by the Supreme Court. We cannot rely on the fact that any of these recommendations will be presented during the second reading. The People's Lawyers Association convened a media briefing in Colombo yesterday to express their views on the 20th Amendment.
Ali Sabri is in this position because he is a lawyer, not because Sabri's father-in-law is a businessman or because of his family. He is there because he is a lawyer. We cannot allow a lawyer who is now the minister to destroy the judiciary. If he does that, Ali Sabri's name will go into the history books as a traitor who destroyed the judiciary. At some points in history, heroes become traitors. He became who he is today because of the judiciary. He got all these titles as a President's Counsel from the judiciary. But what is he trying to do to the judiciary today? If this amendment passes, the judiciary will just be a name. They are now saying that they will bring a fresh constitution within 6 months. They are bringing this constitution by bringing the 20th Amendment and abolishing the 19th. And through the 20th Amendment, they are going to threaten the MPs and the judiciary. About the constitution they are trying to bring, Basil Rajapaksa has said that to develop Sri Lanka, it needs a system like in China. They are trying to bring an authoritarian rule and to bring the next constitution in 6 months after talking to the people. I saw yesterday JL Piris has told that they are bringing this constitution within 6 months. This constitution will ensure Sri Lanka is a country with a unilateral and authoritarian government like in China. We expressed our views about the 20th Amendment in the Supreme Court. But even if we can't, we will fight on the streets. J.R. Jayawardena was a bigger influencer than this. But what happened to J.R. in the end? Therefore, you can't play those games here in Sri Lanka. You can get the required number of heads in the house by making threats or by using money, but we will change the public's opinion. We are ready to challenge the government with a 2/3 majority.
අපි ජනතා මතය හදනවා අපි ලෑස්ති ওই මහ ලොකෝයි තුනෙන් දෙක දින ආණ්ඩුව හොල්ලන්නේ
රටේ නීතිය ක්‍රියාත්මක
These changes are made because they are afraid of the enforcement of law in this land, attacks on the independence of judiciary, appointments and dismissals of the judiciary and so on. A president of a country is a guardian of a country, not the owner of the country. This country is not his property. Therefore, the country's constitution should not change on the discretion of a guardian.
ඒ ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව මෙහෙවන්නට ඉඩ දිය යුතු නැහැ.
ශ්‍රේෂ්ඨාධිකරණයේ පෙසමක්
We will not stop after submitting a petition to the Supreme Court. We have decided to take necessary steps with the public.
සමග විවිධ ක්‍රියාකාරීත්වයන්ට යන්න තමයි අපි තීන්දුව කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Trade unions representing both the state and private sector have formed a collective to oppose the 20th Amendment to the Constitution.
එක රැයින් දරුණු අනපනක් ගෙනන්
We have identified an attempt to create a dictatorial rule through this amendment where these struggles could be stopped overnight through the passing of several acts. State sector unions, private sector unions and semi-government unions have all come together to protect the rights of workers. We have joined hands against it.
ඒක රාශි වෙලා තියෙනවා මේ විරෝධතාවයේ සමග අත්වැල් බැඳ ගන්න. විශේෂයෙන් පෞද්ගලිකාංශයේ
We identified several attempts to amend labor laws which would have affected private sector employees. We were able to limit those through launching various struggles. However, if the 20th Amendment was in effect, the President could pass those amendments with a single signature.
එක පෑන් පහරකින් ඒවා වෙනස් කිරීමට
19 ව්‍යවස්ථා සංශෝධන ඉවත් කරන්න කියලා දැන් අන්තිම අලුතෙන් කෙනුම්පතක් ඉදපත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒකෙදී අගමැතිවරයාගේ බලය අඩු වීම සම්බන්ධයෙන් තිබෙද්දී ඔබතුමාලා ඒක සම්මත කරන්න අත උස්සන්න සූදානම්ද? ඒක නිසා තමයි විශේෂ සංශෝධන.
That is why the 20th Amendment attempts to give back the powers of the President that were lost in the 19th Amendment. This is why 6.8 million people voted for him. This is why a 2/3 majority was given to him. The executive power given to him by the people is necessary, and without it, a country cannot be taken forward. That is what is being done through the 20th Amendment. It will create the previous level of power the Prime Minister had before the 19th Amendment. This is not about reducing the powers of the Prime Minister. We all know how destructive the 19th Amendment was to the country.
මොනතරම් දුරට රට අරාජික කරලා කියලා අපි සිල්ලුදම දන්නවා.
General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Dayasiri Jayasekara, said that the party is disappointed. He made this statement while appearing on the Ilakke program broadcasted on our sister channel Sirasa TV.
ඔච්චර ගොඩක් කරගිරීමෙන් ඉන්නේ මොකද හේතුව අපේ පාක්ෂිකයන්ට අපේ ප්‍රායසම මන්ත්‍රීවරුන්ට
As a party, we are disappointed because our supporters, our provincial councillors and organisers aren't receiving the respect and support they deserve from the government as ones who contributed for this victory. I am disappointed because at the end of the day, the fault falls onto my hands. I am the one who gets the blame. At times, they don't have the answers for our questions. These issues should be solved immediately. We are to implement the mechanism for this soon.
ඉතින් ඔවුන්ට සමහරලාට අපිට දෙන්න උත්තර නැති වෙනවා සමහරලාට කිව්වම. ඒ නිසා මේවා ඉක්මනින් විසඳගත යුතුයි. ඒකට අවශ්‍ය කරන වැඩ පිළිවෙල අපි ඉතාම ඉක්මනින් සකස් කරන්න තමයි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
Meanwhile, an organisation called the Catholic Expression complained to the CID against former President Maithripala Sirisena regarding the April 21st attack. The group said in a statement that the complaint was lodged as a result of discussions with the private secretary to the president and other officials. Only 2 of the main culprits are being apprehended. The main culprit has not yet been arrested. A discussion was held about this yesterday. Accordingly, a complaint will be lodged with the CID against Maithripala Sirisena, the former president, today to have necessary actions taken.
Testifying again at the Presidential Commission probing the April 21st attacks, former IGP Pujit Jasundara said that the State Intelligence Service had informed him of the activities of Zahran Hashim, who was later identified as the mastermind of the bombings since 2017. This included the manner in which Zahran Hashim had posted extremist content and hate speech on social media, by also criticizing democracy, the legislature and the judiciary of the country. Former Inspector General of Police Pujit Jasundara, who gave evidence today, said he understood the severity of the matter since its inception. However, he pointed out that the President had entrusted the State Intelligence Service that did not fall under his purview with the responsibility of investigating these matters during a National Security Council meeting. The former police chief added that he was unable to apprise the former president of the gravity of the situation. The former IGP conceded that he was informed by the then director of the SIS, Nilantha Jayawardena, in November 2018 that there was a risk of Zahran and his followers launching an attack during the election season. Meanwhile, documents produced before the Commission also revealed that the Terrorist Investigation Division had requested Facebook to ban the account of Zahran Hashim.
Now, in response to the downgrading by Moodys this week, the Ministry of Finance convened a media briefing today.
Governor of the Central Bank, Professor W.D. Lakshman, and several officials of the Central Bank were also present at the briefing.
There were discussions between the Moodys team and the Central Bank team as well as the Treasury team on two occasions during this year. During both occasions, we have indicated to them the very positive developments on the basis of ground reality. But they have completely ignored our presentation. And they had some numbers obtained from somewhere, and also they had certain perceptions about maybe issues pertaining to governance, issues pertaining to maybe human rights. There are a whole lot of items they are taking into consideration in making their decisions.
Under these circumstances, can we assume that Moodys is biased against Sri Lanka and other emerging nations?
Actually, that's an assumption that you would have to make, Sandul. But overall, we have given our side of the story, which is very clear. And we have given that to you in black and white. Finally, it's decided by the markets. We'll see how the markets react. In 2009, Sri Lankan credit was downgraded. Markets reacted in the other way. So it showed that they were diametrically opposite to the position that was taken by the rating agency. It is the reputation that is at risk for them. For us, it is our economy.
The State Minister also spoke about Sri Lanka's debt repayment commitments due in 2020 and 2021.
We also saw that the official reserves of the Central Bank increased to $7.4 billion by the end of 2020. Some part of these reserves would be used to make the payment of the next bond issuance, the next bond payment, which is due on the 4th of October. That will be met with these reserves, and there's ample reserves to make that payment as well.
The State Minister, outlining the government's plan to raise funds in the domestic and foreign markets, said the government envisages to raise 1,500 billion rupees in treasury bonds and bills, $550 million in SLDBs, $400 million in FCBUs and other administrative sources such as government overdraft. He added that bilateral support from the World Bank and ADB is expected to be around $1.2 billion and $700 million is expected from China Development Bank in October of 2020.
Our outflows next year would be about $4.5 billion. Yes, about $4.5 billion.
The only thing is in July, am I right? The next ISB payment is in July.
How much should
that's
that
about
be?
That's $1 billion.
Billion.
The payments front loaded, do we have a little bit of time? Like
we have enough time. We'll
to the market next year, or if that's still an option that the Sri Lankan government is exploring.
What we did mention to you was we have all these options open. So timing will be our call. We'll take a call. We will go to the markets at the time that is favorable to us. You wouldn't like Sri Lanka to go to a market when the rate is high. Your point with regard to the IMF, yes, IMF is also one of the options. We can have the markets, the bilateral arrangements, swaps, the IMF.
The swap arrangement with India, where the Sri Lankan government has requested $1 billion, where are you in the discussions, and will that also be a topic when the President goes to India?
See, all these arrangements, they come into fruition on a certain day. The Good Friday arrangement in Ireland didn't happen on Bondy Thursday. There was a big process. Suddenly it happened on Good Friday. So we'll also announce at the time that we are ready. But there is a process that is going on.
Timeline, samurai bonds, when are you planning? What's the timeline? What are the fees that you are taking?
We have gone quite a distance in the case of the samurai bonds. And the panda bonds also, there has been initial work done. And once we have examined the terms that could be made available to the government will take a call in consultation with the central bank, and that could also arise even soon, maybe sooner than later even.
He added that the government expects a budget deficit of 9% in 2021 and Sri Lanka's debt stock is envisaged to be brought down below 70% against GDP. Views about Sri Lanka's economic growth were also expressed.
As a government, we can expect a positive growth, at least a positive 1%. However, the central bank, adopting a more conservative approach, forecasts a break-even growth. We will be entering into a new quarter tomorrow. All sectors except for tourism have improved. This is clear when we analyze stat revenues. The monthly income used to be 150 billion rupees. During the COVID-19 period, this declined to 70, but now our income has increased to 144. After we receive the results from the third and fourth quarter, we together with the central bank can try to manipulate the data.
අගෝස්තු වෙනකොට ආපහු අපි 144ට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවා. තුන්වෙනි කාර්තුවේ සහ හතරවෙනි කාර්තුවේ එක ඇවිල්ලා අපි සෙන්ටරල් බැංක් එක බොරු කරන්න උත්සාහ කරනවා.
Meanwhile, views were expressed regarding the State Minister's remarks during an online webinar named Deep Dive, organized by Advocata Institute.
I think what the State Minister of Finance says, I think is a good example of my postponement problem. It is very attractive to postpone. It's like saying, look, there's plenty of time for the exam, we can study tomorrow. And I think that is the answer to that question. The more you delay, the more pain there is. In fact, the cost of debt is here today. It's not here tomorrow. If we are shut out of the markets today, there's $1 billion to pay in October in servicing debts, and 4 to 5 billion every year starting 2021. That has to exit the country. There is no magic formula by which you can keep building those reserves.
Now, a group of members of the Haldumulla Pradeshiya Sabha staged a protest on the roof of the Uva Provincial Council today, demanding a proper investigation into the allegations against the chairman.
These members have been protesting against the chairman of the Haldumulla Pradeshiya Sabha since last week. They staged a protest on the roof today, stating that the protest they held in front of the Uva Provincial Council had not seen their issues resolved. The governor of the Uva province expressed the following views regarding the protest on the roof of the Uva Provincial Council building.
I've been here for 2 weeks. Where have they been all these days? Why were they waiting till I came? Do councillors behave like that? Can councillors climb on the roof and oust chairman? So all the chairmen of the local government bodies can be chased away if you climb on roofs. That is a council. You need to know how to go to the council and do the necessary work. The manner in which these people's representatives behave when defeated in the budget is lovely.
Our correspondent said that the protesters dispersed after the Haldumulla police arrived at the scene. 3 individuals, including the chief incumbent of the Badiklo Mangalarama Viharaya, Venerable Ampitiye Sumanaratana Thera, were granted bail today in a case related to incidents of obstructing the duties of the officers of the Department of Archaeology in the Pankuda Valley area in Badiklo. The order was issued by Yeraur visiting magistrate Karupaya Jivarani. The Kardianaru police had filed a case against the group for trespassing on an excavation site and obstructing a group of archaeologists from carrying out their duties. Although the State Council and the police objected to the granting of bail, the magistrate ordered the suspects to be released on cash bails worth 200,000 rupees as the relevant charges were not proved. The case was adjourned until the 27th of November.
Now, a tense situation arose at a meeting that was convened by Minister of Lands S.M. Chandrasena when he visited the Hambantota district to look into the land issues faced by the people. The meeting that was held under the patronage of Minister of Land S.M. Chandrasena was attended by the District Secretary of Hambantota, divisional secretariats and many high officials at state institutions. Many views were expressed on issues such as the wild elephant menace and issues surrounding cultivation lands.
Various individuals have forcefully obtained 20,000 or 30,000 acres of land in the Mahaveli area in the past 6 to 7 months. They make unusual deeds and clean 50 to 60 acres. Under the Land Reform Commission, you can only have ownership to 50 acres of land. No one can own lands exceeding 50 acres. If there is an anomaly, it becomes a national issue and attention should be drawn to it on a ministerial level. We have to clearly instruct the divisional secretariats on how to take action in this matter. This is not our personal thing. We have to be sensitive towards this. People have land to cultivate. People need land to live. We have had cases of 20 deeds for plots of land. People from Colombo with many deeds for the same plot of land. Then we go and do some field survey and identify the same plot of land. Like this, there is a massive land fraud taking place in the Hambantota district. What has happened to the many acres of land right in front of the Mattala International Airport? To whom has it been given to? What is the decision taken regarding that? When ministers of the previous regime ordered you, you released the land. But when our farmers ask for land to cultivate, you are unable to provide them anything.
Meanwhile, the District Coordination Committee for the Polonnaruwa district was held yesterday. The function of the committee is to identify and discuss the issues in the Polonnaruwa district. The meeting was held under the patronage of the Minister of Wildlife and Forest Conservation, C.B. Ratnayaka.
ඇත්තටම ඇවිල්ලා ජීවිතේ සටනක් තමයි ගෙනියන්නේ. ඒ සටන ගෙනියනකොට උන්ට සහනයක් තමයි ඉල්ලන්නේ. ඒ නිසා නීති පහන්ති මොනවත් එක්කවත් අපිට යම් සහනයක් දෙන්න පුළුවන් නම් ඒ කාර්යනේ අපි කතා කරන්න ඕනේ. මෙන්න වෙන්න බෑ. ඒ අවස්ථාව සලසාද පොඩක් ඉන්නකෝ. ඔයා කතා කරනවානේ. දැන් ඒක නිසා හඳුනාගත්ත කොටස් ටික හදලා මේ අමතුමාලත් එක්ක සාකච්ඡා කරලා දුන් ප්‍රමාණය වෙන් කරන්න. හැබැයි කොටු කර ගැනීම සඳහා උපව කරන්න පස්ස. ඒක ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපිට මාර්තු දාලා ගෑනලා ඉන්නකොට උදාගේ නඩු දාවරනවා. 8 දෙනෙකුට දැනට නඩු කියනවා 8 දෙනෙක් නඩු බාවර අර්ථයෙන්. අපිට විකල්ප ඉඩම් දෙනතුරු අපිට වගා කරගන්න අවසරය ලබා දෙන්න කියලා මම ඔබතුමාගේ අගාපත් වෙලා සිටිනවා. අපිට ජීවත් වෙන්න කිසිම මාර්ගයක් නැහැ. දැනට බලන්න වෙලාවක් අපිට අපේ යුතුයකමනේ මහජන නියෝජිතයෝ විදියට මේ ප්‍රශ්න විසඳන්නේ. ඉතින් බලන විසඳුම අපි. දැන් කමිටු වෙලා ගන්නනේ ඒ කමිටු නිර්දේශ ගන්න කොහොමද තියෙන්නේ කාටද තියෙන්නේ ස්පාරෝ පුරියනවාද මේ ඔක්කොම මේ අපි කමිටුවෙන් ගන්න පුළුවන් අද බලන්න පුළුවන් අද බලලා වාර්තා දෙන්න.
Following the committee meeting, these responses were received.
තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න සාකච්ඡා කරන්න මේක වෙන අවස්ථාවක් හම්බුනේ නෑ.
ඒ කියන්නේ දැන් කීයටද පටන් ගත්තේ මේක?
මේක 9 මාර පටන් ගන්නවා 9:45. මේ සභාපතිතුමා ඉන්නවා මේ නිලධාරීන්
Our correspondent said that the meeting, which began at around 9:30 a.m. continued till 4 p.m.
Meanwhile, Minister of Environment Mahindra Pakistan made a special statement today. Recently, the opposition leader claimed that there is a large-scale environment destruction taking place in the country. I invited him to come forward for a debate to prove that no such act is taking place in the country as of now. Deputy Leader of the UNP, Ruwan Wijewardena, has also told media that the government is clearing 7 acres of forest land on a daily basis. This is completely false. This is just another attempt in the long-term plan to disgrace the government. I would like to call him too for a debate. I will come by myself and prove that there is no environmental destruction taking place in the country. There have been a few minor incidents. All individuals responsible and connected to these incidents have been arrested and cases have been filed in court. There is a politician of the ruling faction and from the opposing faction among them as well. If someone is harming the environment, we will enforce the law strictly against them regardless of their position.
Gamini Fonseca. Now today marks the 16th anniversary of the death of the iconic actor known as Sakwiti in Hela cinema. But his memory is immortalized in the hearts and minds of cinema lovers.
A blood donation drive in memory of Gamini Fonseca was organized at the Narayanpeta National Blood Centre. The Gamini Fonseca Memorial Foundation organized this program for the 5th time.
Very pleased to be able to attend this event. I see this as a coming together event of those connected to cinema for a good cause, as a great contribution to the future of cinema.
US Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Elena B. Teplitz, expressed these views at an event organized by the American Chamber of Commerce.
The high foreign debt levels are obviously a challenge going forward. Low projected growth, right? That's going to be a challenge, and maybe just a reflection of some of what's going on. And of course, the revenue losses due to the essentially almost closure of the tourism sector and tax cuts that were made not in anticipation, of course, of the pandemic and the impact on the economy. It means there's a lot less with which the government, I think, has to work. Another reason why courting private, sustainable, high-quality investments got to be a priority. There's just not enough resources out there.
With that, it's a wrap of Primetime News for tonight. For the Newsfirst team, I've been John Fernando, along with our sign language interpreter, Ryan D. Cruz. Take care and have yourself a good night.